and I'm very friendly, and I wanna mama bear you, and I'm so loving, I'm so caring for everyone. But if you make me angry, mama bear is gonna step on your balls. Mama bear is gonna do this to you because you're not being obedient. Yo, what's Gucci, guys? I'm back. So I know some of you probably thought, wow, he doesn't give a about us. He abandoned us, right? He has his new little project and he's gonna go there and get cozy. Absolutely not. How perceptions of subtypes have changed in Enneagram. And this idea is not original. I wish I could sit here and tell you that this is an idea I came up with because I'm a motherfucking genius. Not at all. I got this idea from RDP, which obviously is, I know RDP, fucking solid motherfucker, and he has been on this channel for a long time. So shout out to RDP. I've seen the post on PDB talking about how the types change, and I want to kind of give my own little twist to it, give my perspective on how the perspective of each subtype really changed, the perception of each subtype. So when it comes to social one, it became almost like a geek. So the social one became very, very intellectual. To many people, it wasn't a surprise. Javier and many others, even when I was making the intellectual tier list, they told me, hey, SO1 should be up there. It's very, very intellectual. So I think now we went from that kind of like social one is kind of like a sexual one, but not aggressive. Like, that's how it's seen, right? Social one is basically like sexual one, is just not aggressive, and it's focused on big picture. That's all. That's the difference. And now there's a high degree of intellectualism. That's how we view social one now, right? With sexual one, it was a big daddy dom ass cheek taker, sister lover, and it's still a sister lover and ass cheek taker. Although I think it's probably maybe emphasize the third logic of sexual one, and possibly just showing people how first will sexual one really is. SP1, it became this, again, SP3 coded type. Very, very dutiful, described as almost like accommodating, wanting to please, and kind of be of service and of use to others, be useful for other people. So it's very dutiful and oriented towards service in that sense. So from that perspective, and there were people who told me, hey, self-preservation 1 was very 1V. I do admit, when I was reading it, I'm like, I don't see at any 1V. Like, where the do you see first will here? I didn't see 1V at all. I did see a lot of second will being portrayed in the type. Then we have self-preservation 2. I think the perception of SP2 was princess. And slowly, I feel like we are accepting that they can be degenerates. It's not just princess who wants to be loved. I feel like slowly we are accepting that it's also a person who's very entitled. We're understanding that Regina George is an SP2. We're understanding that they can be, they believe because they exist and they're giving with you that they should be spoiled and they should be given shit. Crazy mindset, right? Then we have this Homeland. The Homelander was a big one. I do feel like the Homelander era was huge, where people were like, that's not possible. How? How is that possible? But literally, that is how this type can be. It doesn't need to be just a little princess, especially in males can manifest a bit differently. At the end of the day, Homelander is still he still throws tantrums. He still throws shit ton of tantrums. So sexual 2, I think it came up. It went from very aggressive. They're like sexual aid, and we've changed it. I do feel there's a lot of responsibility on this community. We have decapitated a lot of this bullshit. I mean, I read some of the shit people say about this type. They're literally just talking about sexual aid without understanding it. I feel like we've changed that perception. It's again more maternal. They're more welcoming, more loving, more caring, more sweet character. It's not just this big daddy dom who comes in, wants to possess you, dominate you. No, very giving. Very, again, a lot of bright energy, wanting to flatter you, wanting to make you feel good, very good at being hostesses, stuff like that, providing that comfort and providing those great experiences and feelings for people. They're great at that. They're great at making people feel a certain way. So I feel like we have a bit more grounded and realistic portrayal of sexual 2. There can still be tantrum. There's fruity. There are tantrum throwers. And all that's typical Tukor shit, obviously, And then we have social 2, which, wow, that was a big difference here. Social 2 was almost like this social 9, right? It was a social 9. It was this very caring, sweet, just friendly, and there's SO2 because they care about everyone. So we changed the perception. That perception changed completely. And now we're at the stage where the perception of the SO2 is mastermind, cold motherfucker, Chadwick, right? Anime villain, and doesn't give a fuck, egocentric as shit, right? Thinks they're superior, thinks they're better than everyone. But let's also not forget, guys, at the end of the day, social 2, that's the caricature, that's the anime shit. You're watching too much anime. When it comes to social 2, at the end of the day, still altruistic. Tupac is a good example. I've noticed social 3 was anyone who liked glory, or anyone who liked to be in position of superiority of any kind would just get typed social 3. I've seen many SLEs, I've seen many SEEs get typed social 3, which, by the way, if you understand social 3 or you understand Enneagram 3, you would know this type cannot be SE based. But we also then went from this as a person who is very open with, like, he's an arrogant prick and, like, doesn't get, like, he's gonna tell you he's better than you. We're slowly getting into the area where we see social 3 as a very pragmatic, very efficient, very logical, chameleonic type, right? That is very good at marketing and management, business situations. As self-preservation 3, I'm not sure how the this type changed. Maybe it was like this pseudo SP8, and now it became, again, much more perfectionistic, much more try-hard. So, guys, if you can tell me how the perception of SP3 changed over the period of few years, let me know down below. Now, sexual 4, it started initially as this just crazy manic pixie girl motherfucker, right? Jinx, woo, woo. And then we moved to a bit more, okay, melancholic. They're brooding, they're more introverted, they're not like cheery all over the place. Okay. Then we kind of then there's this wave of perception where the sexual 4 is this cannibalistic Chadwick who's gonna, like, eat your liver and prey on your kids, you know. Now, the reality is that, I always say this because we've abused Mike Tyson as an example of sexual 4. And I want to change it right now, okay? I want to change it right now. He's a good example of how the neurosis can look like, but to use him as a good representation of how it can manifest in a random Joe, not a good example. Because the guy was a genetical freak at the age of 13, knocking the fuck out 30-year-olds. It's like having a sexual 4 twink in the body of a machine. You don't do that. Of course he's gonna be a nutcase, butchering everyone. It makes sense. Now, a better example would be someone like Elliot Rodger, right? That is, in my opinion, a better example of someone who's a sexual 4. A twink, right? Come on, bullied on the motherfucking daily, melancholic, blaming the world for his problems. Now, this is not to say every sexual 4 is going to be like this, but if you want to use a caricature that can kind of be more closely related to than average Joe in high school, that is that type, that is someone you'd look at. Now, social 4, I'm not sure how the it changed. It started as very, crying, cringe, to nowadays people seeing it as more accommodating, pleasing, and actually not a type that's gonna go online and cry and spread the out about their misery, right? Oh, I'm so sad, look at me, I'm cringe. They probably won't do it. In fact, in theory, social 4 is described as someone who hides their pain away from other people. So you're not supposed to see that. And self-preservation 4 went from a loser, sigma male, big daddy dom, right? Grinds it. And another problem which I see here, which is funny. David Goggins. Let's talk about David Goggins here. I do agree. Listen, if you want to see how the neurosis looks like at the most extreme, right, to understand the neurosis, the thinking process, the manifestation, watch David Goggins. I agree with that. Do you want to use him as a hallmark of a average SP4 manifestation? Never in million years. Never in million years. He is an outlier, okay? If you want to understand maybe the neurosis on an archetypal level, sure. David Goggins is someone I need to make a video about, and not in relation to typology, but a video on my other channel, Reality Check, because people idealize him, as this sigma male. And nobody knows he is incredibly unhealthy. Nobody actually sits and understands, wow, this guy is so unhealthy, it's insane. Now, the 5 cause, no idea, but I feel like the biggest changes that happened was with, like, maybe sexual 5. I feel like that's probably the biggest changes. They just went from another 5 core to this stalker, sigma male discount, almost master manipulator. That's what that's the perception that changed, right? From just an average 5, I guess, who loves, to this manipulative sigma male, almost emotionally intelligent motherfucker. So that's the perception that changed. With social 5 and SP5, I'm not sure what changed. I'm not even sure if anything changed in the perception. Self-preservation 6, it was literally a piss baby, you know, like just complete terror, like anxiety everywhere. Basically, it was someone who cared about security and was very anxious, and they were self-preservation 6. I feel like nowadays the perception is a bit better. We see them as much more rational. There is this logical orientation often. There is this warmth, gaining security through warmth, but there is this logical orientation. They're a head type, right? Sexual 6 was so butchered. It was so butchered. It was, I can't even. I don't know where to start. It was so butchered. It was so fucking bad. And you see this. You wanna know? Just Google this, right? Sexual 6 versus Enneagram 8. A tough guy who would bark at you. A tough guy who was rebellious. That's how they viewed it. The perception of a sexual 6 was someone who's very loud and spurgy, who seemed to be intimidating, or perceived as such, keyword perceived as intimidating, and they were very rebellious, and they were trying to be rebellious. So obviously, if you're trying to be rebellious, it must be out of fear. That's what they were projecting on people. And obviously, that's not the case. They kind of were talking about an 8 core. They were talking about some sexual 8. They thought is a sexual 6. So then we moved away from perception of that. The sexual 6 became Batman. The sexual 6 became more introverted, logical, inhibited, paranoid, again, much more hierarchical, much more methodical, much more organized, much more meticulous. We go to a point where nowadays, you shouldn't confuse an 8 core with a 6 core. Nowadays, there's no reason for that. I feel like social 6, the perception of it was a follower. He's a loyalist. He's loyal. So if you're loyal, right, to a cause, you're social 6. That was how it was. Social 6. The perception is changing from that to someone who is very rational, someone who is very reasonable, someone who is very logical, someone who is very logically oriented, someone who is hyper fixated on reasoning and rationality to guide them through life. That is what gives them security. So we're seeing someone who's actually an intellectual. Now we're abandoning he's a loyalist, he's loyal. We don't, now that's not even relevant. We don't even think of it. Self-preservation 7, there are some things that changed. I think self-preservation 7 was really we viewed it as an 8 core. Live in the moment. They just live in the moment. They don't care. They go to parties all day. They all the bitches. They do whatever they want. They like to have fun. Nothing's that serious. They live in the moment. They have no foresight. That was the perception of SP7. Now, the perception became, this is a mental character. This is a charlatanistic individual who uses planning, who uses scheming, who uses the ability to use logic in situations and navigate situations to gain leverage over other people. Now you're seeing the ability to be witty, the ability to create and form plans, an ability to towards that idealism. That is what it is. And SP7 has went from a mistyped 8 core to now a type who is intuitive as it should be, because as self-preservation 7 is intuitive type. Now social 7, so we started seeing them as much more intellectual, extremely intellectual. There was a period where the perception of social 7 was almost like a social 2. The social 7 has become a geek. Sexual 7, man, I'm not sure what the sexual 7. I'm not sure what changed here. Now with self-preservation 8, I feel like what changed was this most strategic, most logical ENTJ type to actually just an ESTP, right? Just a very good example of what an ESTP looks like. We don't see them as 5 core in any way, shape or form now. You don't look at an SP5 and confuse them for a 5 core with this new impression of the type. Back in the day, you'd see questions like, am I a 5 or am I SP8? Sexual 8, we went from this ENTJ Big Daddy Dom. I feel like the perception of a sexual 8 now is almost more 7-ish in a sense, where more playful, more exhibitionistic, get what they want, a lot of rebellion, but very much in the moment. There was a shift with social 8 because, and you see this, social 8 used to get typed as an ENFJ. Like, that's common. Just go, even now, you'll see on Reddit, I'm a mama bear, because the perception was mama bear, and I'm very friendly, and I want to mama bear you, and I'm so loving, I'm so caring for everyone. But if you make me angry, mama bear is gonna step on your balls. Mama bear is gonna do this to you because you're not being obedient. And this mama bear, little caretaker. We went from that to a revolutionary spirit, someone who can be like Tyler Durden. So we went from this mama bear, I love everyone, I'm actually empathetic, probably a mistyped social 9, to Tyler Durden. Some people still think the perception of SO8 still might be a shonen protagonist. It's sadly, because of the fucking anime, that's how it's viewed. Which is why many people have completely unrealistic perception of social 8. Any 8 core SCE8 who is not extremely like a goody two-shoes anime protagonist, he's not considered nice, is suddenly branded as a sexual 8. Now, self-preservation 9, I feel like they became more Sigma male. SP9 was just viewed as a peacekeeper who just wanted peace with everyone, but they also like wanted material security. And that's what they viewed it as. But the reality is it's a Sigma. Social 9, I'm not sure what changed. The social 9 became a great host, very talkative, a good leader, a person who wants to be dutiful to others, who wants to work for others, who wants to help others, who wants to champion for others. So you saw that. Session 9, I don't know what happened with Session 9. But if you do know, if you are a Session 9 watching this video, remember, I love you. It's not personal, okay? Comment down below. Again, guys, what you guys think. What was the perception of types before? How did the perception change to nowadays? And what do you think about this perception change? How do you view the types? That's a good question. I'm out. I'm bouncing. Ciao. Bye.